Charboneau and David Lynn Miller.
Welcome to Dudes on Movies. I'm your dude Scott.
I'm your dude Dave.
And today we're discussing 1969's Funeral Parade of Roses, directed by Toshio Matsumoto and starring Pita. Dave, why don't you give everyone a synopsis?
Yep, this movie is set in Tokyo's gay underground in 1969, and the main story, told in a non-linear format, revolves around a trans woman named Eddie, who was abused and abandoned by her father when she was younger, and she now works in a gay bar and brothel where she's a major draw for the customers. And we eventually learn a lot more about Eddie and the other characters, but what the movie is most well known for is its experimental style, as well as its influence on other more well-known films. It is a difficult movie to discuss in our format, but please come along with us because it's Pride Month, and this is the second entry, and it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I put this on the schedule because, I didn't know about this movie. I wanted to find a movie for Pride Month that I had never heard of. I wanted, all right, what's some deep cut that we can showcase here? Mm-hmm. And this one just kept popping up. I was like, I've never heard of this. This is great. Oh, it's a Japanese film from the 1960s about trans subculture. This is amazing.
Right.
Let's look into this. And it's experimental. It just sounded like every box was checked. I was like, this is a dude's movie. We've got to talk about this.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we chose it because it's quite a film. It blew me away, actually.
Yes, it was not at all what I was expecting. I tried to go in as cold as I could. I usually, whenever there's something that's totally obscure that I've never heard of that you've put on the schedule, I always do it this way. I've just, from now on, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to read anything about it. I mean, I'll look at the poster and that's that. But and it always helps me to not know anything about it before I do. And this is another one.
Yeah, and apparently it was not extremely well known, I guess, for a while, but there was a big restoration in 2017 in 4K that got some like showings in some theaters, and then a Blu-ray release in 2020 by BFI, and I think that kind of catapulted it into the modern culture. Mm-hmm. I think people have always known about it. It was part of like the Japanese New Wave back then, and has been an underground LGBTQ movie for a long time, but the last, 5-10 years, now it's kind of gotten new life.
Before the 2017 restoration, you mentioned how it was part of Japanese New Wave and everything, but had it been a cult film outside of Japan since the original release?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, I would imagine it had some cult following, but I don't know if it's been added to these lists of Japanese New Waves movies since it's been restored. Right. I have no idea.
Right.
But that's what's so fascinating about it, because this is an incredible piece of filmmaking that challenges you, and it's actually entertaining to watch.
Yes.
And it does there's actually a lot of good humor in it, too. I found a lot of things funny in it when it was trying to be, and I really loved the story. It's based loosely on Oedipus Rex, and we'll get into all that stuff when we get there.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, so I'm glad you liked it too, Dave.
Right, yes, and I really enjoyed all the things I'm sure you did about it, but I also I was able to spot what movies that I've seen that are more familiar with were influenced by this film.
Yeah, I read that A Clockwork Orange was heavily influenced by this.
Yes.
I don't know what the source of that is. Has Kubrick come out and say that?
It was Kubrick himself who mentioned it.
Okay, that's awesome.
And the weird thing is, of all the I guess everything that's in this movie that I would have thought, I was trying to spot what about this movie influenced Kubrick for Clockwork Orange, because I really couldn't spot it. I mean, there was nothing here that I was like, oh, that's definitely from that film.
Maybe it's just kind of like a feeling he kind of was trying to go with.
Right.
Because A Clockwork Orange does kind of have a lot of like stark jumps between like the scenes they're doing. Like, like ultra-violent stuff, and then something that's actually really funny, and then something that's just strange for no reason,
Yes. Overall tone and mood setting, I guess that could have been part of the influence.
Yeah, and it definitely is. And I mean, I don't know of any other examples, but were there other movies, that were influenced by this?
Yeah, I mean, like My Own Private Idaho and Leaving Las Vegas also use a similar narrative. In those films, they often cut away to the actors telling their stories apart from the action in a documentary style. And it just occurred to me now that, like, even though Kubrick mentioned A Clockwork Orange, there's a part of Full Metal Jacket that feels like this a bit. In that movie, you're not cutting away to a documentary that's not being made, but there is like a document, like Stars and Stripes is reporting on city warfare, and then like Matthew Modine is interviewed, and it's still part of the overall dramatic narrative, and then they talk to Adam Baldwin and so forth, and yeah, like that technique is definitely used here, and it's completely at random.
Yeah, it is. And I was wondering if it was truthful interviewing of the members of the cast and the film crew, or if it was the narrative they wrote where they're playing themselves. Like, I couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the experimental nature of the movie, is you don't know.
And that's what makes it kind of cool.
It is, yeah.
And then, I mean, there's the interviews, there's surreal interludes for no reason. There's film negative we watch.
Yeah,
it does a lot of crazy things. But it has an engaging narrative throughout the whole thing. We just jump between lots of stuff and kind of have to pick it up as we go.
Right. And that's the great thing about surrealism. I mean, a lot can be said using that technique, and it doesn't have to make sense because you're not making a traditional movie.
Right. And this one is not traditional. And are you ready to talk about it?
I am ready, yes.
So it opens up on like a real close-up shot of a body, like someone caressing someone's chest, or like their head's on the stomach, and it cuts to another shot of like real close-up of like legs kind of being spread apart like scissors almost, and a head kissing some legs, and then like a back, and the camera's kind of circling around, and there's kissing on the mouth, like real close-up. So it's just like people are making love, and we're like, the camera is inches from them. Yeah.
To get like flesh this close up, and it's in real stark black and white against almost a full white background, you're seeing a lot without seeing anything. Like, it's like a full, two full asses, but you don't know that's what you're looking at because you're too close.
Yeah, dangerously close to the asses. And yeah, eventually the camera, I think, is pulled out some when it makes one cut, and we can see the two people embracing there and making love.
Yes, bodies intertwined.
Yeah, they're like all tangled up, and the camera's slowly like spinning around them and stuff. And I think that it cuts to the title card, Funeral Parade of Roses. And then we come back, and the two of them, I guess, are getting dressed now or something. They're in a hotel room, and it's our protagonist named Eddie, played by Pita, who's a famous, underground trans actress in Japan during this time. I read that she was also in Kurosawa's Ran.
Yes, she was.
Which is kind of cool. I think she played the fool.
Right.
But yeah, it's Eddie, who's the young, beautiful, like, hostess at the bar, right? And then it's Ganda, I think is his name.
Yes.
He's he runs the bar, and he seems like he's a straight guy, but he's also gay. Like, he fronts himself as just a straight businessman.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting aspects about him, and like, I guess really if you think about just men who consume trans women porn often identify as straight. And in this moment, we're not supposed to know that Eddie is a trans woman.
Yeah,
they're treating it like she's, like it's just a man and woman having an affair.
Right. And unless you know going in, there's no way to tell.
Right.
Because Eddie's very convincing as a woman. And then they have some kind of conversation here about Eddie's going to quit or something like that. And he says, no, don't, you can't. She has to. But no, I'm gonna fire Lita. Don't worry about it. She's gonna be gone. So we don't really know what they're talking about here, but it's setting up some intrigue for us. Like, all right, something's going on here. They don't want to be together anymore. They can't for some reason, but they're trying to figure out how. Then we see them driving away, and as they're driving away, Eddie looks at someone standing on the corner as the car's going down the road, and it's this other woman who makes eye contact with Eddie, and Eddie is shocked. She thinks it's Letta, the other woman. Which it
Yes,
is.
It is, and we don't know that yet. She thinks it is, and Gonda tries to convince her. No, you're just seeing things. No big deal.
Yeah, you're crazy.
I mean, he definitely saw it was Letta. That's
Right.
the weird thing.
No, I'm gonna gaslight you so hard, dude.
God damn.
It's fine.
He's just telling her that she didn't see something she saw.
Yeah, and what she says is, "Oh, that was Madame."
Uh-huh.
Like, she's the head hostess at the gay club.
Right, which is an exalted position, obviously,
Yes.
because it means that like everybody comes to see you, and you're the primary,
Yeah, she's the head of
act.
this brothel.
Right.
She runs it. Gonda might own the place and that kind of thing, but she is the boss.
Yes.
She's the manager there.
It's like being the maitre d' at a restaurant.
Yeah, it's a very important position, and lots of people strive to have that position.
Yes, and the other thing too with like the, I guess, the culture itself is when we get to the club and we see how it the hierarchy of everything and just how the gay scene worked at the time. I like how, I hope I didn't miss it, but I don't remember any of the trans characters either self-identifying or referring to each other as trans.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
Right.
I-
they call themselves like gay boys. And
Yeah.
and the documentary crew does the same thing. But even with this kind of unfamiliar label, like the film is still sensitive toward the prejudice they face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like they have a few confrontations with some like other women in the street
Yes.
at one point, and not only with other people, but they are there's infighting at the club too.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Because like we see right away on this first evening that like Eddie and Letta, they have a rivalry just because like it's the same as any professional environment where like two people are probably vying for the same position.
Right, and the ones getting older, getting a little too old for this job,
Yep.
but they're gonna lose it to this young upstart who's coming in and just stealing this out from under you. You're not ready to retire yet, but you're almost gonna be forced to,
Right.
and it's coming. So you're just holding on with like all your strength to whatever you have.
Man, I wish that we didn't all have to deal with this.
Yes, it happens, unfortunately, and it can happen gracefully, or it can happen very humiliatingly and publicly.
Exactly.
in a horrible tragedy.
You can have an All About Eve situation.
You can definitely have that. You can have a funeral parade of roses situation,
Exactly,
which we'll
yes.
get to at the end of this
That's
movie.
right. We sure will. We'll have much to say about that. I
Yes,
bet.
we will. Yes, we will. And so we've talked about how there's a lot of like the movie's very experimental. It jumps around to places. Sometimes it shows stuff that makes no sense. So like we get some shots here of like people playing soccer in the street with an inflatable chair, and then there's like guys walking down the street like getting stamps on people's hands, and they're like stopping random guys and like stamping their palm, not like the outside of the hand, with like a rose stamp.
Yeah.
It's very unusual. One guy like looks at it and he goes, "What the heck? Like, what's this?" Like,
Yes, right.
I don't know what it means. I did read that the word rose in Japanese is bara or pronounced something like that.
Yes.
But it's a slang word for pansy in English. So, I mean, it's a derogatory term for the gay boys in the movie.
Right.
So,
Okay.
so the rose is symbolic of being homosexual.
So they were stamping the hands to identify
Maybe,
gay
yeah.
men.
Maybe.
Okay.
And they're just stamping everyone because the one guy looked at it and was like, "What the heck?"
Oh, right. That's
Yeah.
not me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
So
Okay.
I don't know if that's what they're trying to do. They're like Nazi Germany, like identifying everyone.
That's
or
the
what?
weird thing, because one of the outcomes is bad. The other one is like a piece of performance art. So
Yeah.
it's probably the latter.
I love that. That's a cool idea. Like
It
it's
is.
just go around randomly stamping people with certain things.
Exactly. This is you now.
I've always wanted to do stuff like that, just never have. Like
Well-
it just sounds so cool.
Yeah, because I was never part of any kind of avant-garde scene like that. I don't know how you get there, but maybe in the next life.
Yeah, maybe we can start something up here
Or-
soon.
or now,
yeah, let's
right.
do that. It'll be fun. But then we get a scene of Eddie in the shower bathing. And we get a lot of the same close-ups we had from the beginning while they were making love. But it's just them in the shower, bathing, and you get a close-up on all kinds of parts of the body. And then after a few moments, they pan, or like they move the camera up to their chest, and it's just a flat chest, like a man's chest.
Yes.
There's nothing there. And it freezes and like holds on that for a moment. And then it cuts to an interview of them interviewing Peta, the actor who's playing Eddie, and asking, how long have you been doing this? You know, how did you become a gay boy? And things like that. So it just, the movie all of a sudden just flips right into this documentary thing. And that's the reveal that it is not a woman we saw at the beginning. It's a trans man identifying as a woman. Right.
And that's the, and that's, like you said earlier, like we don't know if this is Peta or Eddie being interviewed.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like apart from Funeral Parade of Roses, Peta had a long career of playing, you know, trans women, just in regular just art projects, whether it was movies or acting roles or not. Like they can really look female.
Yes.
And the only way we know that she was not born female is by this reveal in the shower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Peta's answering these questions. At one point, I think they asked, why did it happen? How did it happen? Or something. Mm-hmm. And they said, I was just born this way.
Yes.
Which I really like. The movie really takes a good stance on, hey, there's nothing wrong with this.
Yes.
This is natural. People are just like this, and it's okay.
And I don't think that was in any film in 1969 in America.
I struggle to think of one that just flat out said that.
Right. Even if gay life had been portrayed, it was always something to be feared.
Yeah.
And even if it was positive about it, it never made that declaration. No one ever looked into a camera and said, I was born this way.
Yeah, yeah. What was the one with Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine?
The Children's
Hours. Like, and that even isn't like declaring this is okay.
No.
Like that's still like looked down upon in that.
Because the word homosexuality is never said.
Not at all.
It wasn't even talked about. Shirley MacLaine said that it wasn't even talked about during their rehearsal period.
Ridiculous, right? Unbelievable.
It's so outrageous.
Come on, America.
Right.
It was 1969, America. Come on. You were right there breaking ground.
That's the weird thing, is that, like, I mean, so the Children's Hour was 1962, and then...
Yes.
But, like, by 1969, the Summer of Love had already happened.
Mm-hmm.
And if America was supposed to be at the forefront, at the vanguard of the counterculture, why didn't they have Funeral Parade of Roses or something like that was in the mainstream?
Yeah, I have no idea. Who knows?
Because even left-leaning progressive movies were still using gay slurs. Like the protagonists in the movie were still using those words.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, yeah, this is definitely, like, even acknowledging that such people exist means this movie is ahead of its time.
It really is. And with the documentary things cutting in, it reminded me a lot of Paris is Burning. It didn't have a ton of like the living in squalor that movie has, and how everyone's been marginalized terribly. This movie doesn't show that a ton, really.
Right.
But it gives you the same feel. Like, everyone's proud to be who they are in this movie.
Yes, and they walk around town this way, and they don't care.
They don't care at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so we catch up with Eddie at the club. They show up, and Madame is angry with her. Letta. I guess we can call her Letta.
Yeah, Letta.
And they start dancing. We kind of see what the club life is like. Like, there's all the callers there, you know.
Uh-huh.
Everyone's coming in, and they're drinking, having a good time. And Eddie pairs up with a guy named Tony. He's like, looks like an American GI who's
I think
over
he's
there.
an American GI, yeah.
Because he's speaking English.
Right. And did you have subtitles for Tony's English?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, mine did. It just kept like showing Tony's dialogue, even though you could understand it.
Really? That's awesome, dude. Where did you watch this? This is on Canopy, and that's where I watched it.
I watched it on Canopy as well.
Okay, well, maybe it did, and I just wasn't paying attention.
Because it was weird. They would mix it in with Eddie's dialogue. So it would be like, a couple times it was even a parenthetical. It was a really strange thing.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, they pair off. They go walking down some alley. They're having a jolly drunken time. They're going somewhere. And then it cuts from them to our TV screen is suddenly a bunch of scrambled footage, like an old TV antennas that aren't working right, you know?
Yes.
And you're getting the picture like all wobbly and staticky. We see that with like police beating people in a riot, and we hear a bunch of people like at this party talking about it, and when the camera like pulls out of the TV, we see there's a guy behind the TV messing with the antenna.
Right.
And everyone's like yelling at him, "No, you're doing it wrong." And they finally like get it fixed or whatever. But this is like a whole group of, I guess, Eddie's friends, and we don't really get to know a ton of them.
Right.
But there's the one guy like Guevara or whatever.
Yes.
He looks like Che Guevara.
Yes. When he has his fake beard on, he looks like Che Guevara.
Yeah. So is that beard supposed to be fake in the film, or is it just the actor is wearing a beard in the film?
It's hard to say because I think it could be like an affectation that he puts on for parties, because we keep cutting to like shots of him without it.
Yeah.
Or it's like the actor himself put it on and they think it looks good and the filmmakers think it looks good, but it's not convincing. It's really hard to figure out.
Even later we get a weird sequence of the beard being like on. We have a close-up of his face, but the beard is like on, and then it's half hanging off, and then it cuts back to it being on, and then off, and then on, then off.
And that's weird, because is that an acknowledgement that this wasn't a very good prop, or was this like telling them, "Oh, Guevara, he's just trying to put on airs. He's trying to like pretend that he's a revolutionary."
Maybe something like that. I thought it was more targeted towards the themes of like homosexuality with the movie.
Okay.
Like and there's a big scene at the museum about like how people wear faces and stuff and
Yes.
masks. And this is one of his masks that he has on.
Right.
Where like with the beard he's one person, without it he's a different person. You
Right.
know? And you're not always revealing who you really are to, almost anyone.
Of course.
We'll talk about it more at the museum, but that is a great scene at the museum.
Yes, and this whole thing of keep cutting back to Eddie's friends who are all like revolutionaries or film students.
Yeah.
I really like those sequences. I like this
Me
group
too.
of just cutting to them, seeing how they live, and this thing of them looking at American unrest on Japanese television. They're showing that, and that these people are like that plugged in to American culture. That's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, and they feel like they're listening to like rock and roll music and stuff.
Yes.
And I know after the war in Japan, there was a huge counterculture movement with the
Right.
youth. And so, yeah, they're dressing more Americanized and stuff like that. So, yeah, these people are probably fascinated with what's going on in America.
Absolutely, and that's become also, like we talked about it in the Spirited Away thing. It even became a problem in Japan of people becoming too westernized and forgetting the old traditions.
Yes.
And this is. I just said how cool it was. I guess it had its good and bad points, obviously.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's not just America. They have a Beatles poster.
They
Come
do.
on.
They
There we
definitely
go.
do. Right.
We can blame the Beatles. Because that's why America went crazy.
I mean, yeah, the Beatles had a big effect on people.
They did. They might have changed the world.
That's right.
You could say. But yeah, so they're hanging out here. They're having a party. They're wondering where Eddie is. But before we catch back up with Eddie, there's like another sequence of Eddie's walking down the street during the day now, and a bunch of other people are walking down the street. There's no timeline here. This is just a different shot, right?
Uh-huh.
And there's literally like a funeral parade going down the road, and there's people wearing masks on their face. And what are they holding? I can't remember what they're holding in their hands.
Yeah.
They got like roses, and then
Right.
they've got like, I don't know, Bibles or something. I have no idea what
Some
they're
kind of
holding.
sacred text.
Sacred text. That's how you can put it. Yeah.
Right.
They're just like, the whole crowd around them seems confused also. Like, this is almost performance art. But then there's two people lying in the street that look dead.
Right.
So I don't know if they're just walking here to like pay respect. It is just strange, right?
You never know in an experimental surrealist film, like what was the meaning of something, and I think the only thing I can take from it is that this procession, I think this comes from Oedipus Rex.
Okay.
At some point in that play, this happens. And
I can see that. Yeah.
yeah, and Eddie is taking this in, and does it have an effect on her life? It's hard to say in this moment of the film, but it's symbolizing something. I wish I was perceptive enough to understand.
Me too. And like I noticed one of the masks it's almost like a plague doctor mask, but instead of like the beak type thing coming out, it's like a gas mask from the war,
right?
That is connected to the box they're holding. So it's very strange imagery,
right?
And everyone else is just kind of wearing a normal face mask. So yeah, I can't interpret what this really means, but Eddie is witnessing all this happen, this funeral parade, I guess,
right?
And there's a couple dead dudes in the street. You know, I don't know.
A couple dead dudes,
but it's cool and it's like intriguing.
Yeah.
It makes you think, wow, what's going on here? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, and it's the great thing about trying to find meaning in stuff like this is that every one of us sees something different, or every one of us sees something we can't interpret. It's like, well, did that mean anything to me? I don't know. I just know I liked looking at it. I think it's artistic.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to look at.
Right.
And so we catch up with Letta. She's complaining to Gonda about how like Eddie makes her mad and all this stuff. She has no manners, you know, and Gonda thinks like it's about time for things to change, you know, like
right.
He's kind of consoling her a little, and this is where we realize like they are together as a couple.
Gonda and Letta
are together,
right?
Because he starts caressing her and comforting her and says like he's not going to leave her for Eddie. Like, I'll never do that and stuff. And then they start making love, and he's just not a good guy.
No, he is not a
he's
very
a horrible
good guy.
person.
Because in the first scene, in that, after they were getting dressed, Eddie and Gonda in the first scene of the movie, after they had their affair, and Eddie is standing in front of the mirror, and she's brushing her hair with only like the button-up shirt, and she looks really good. It's the look that you like. And he like kind of clutches her from behind, embraces her from behind, and says, "Oh, Eddie, you're so gorgeous." And she asks him, you know, like, what's going to happen with me and you? Oh, I'm going to leave Lita.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and now here we are. It's 20 minutes later in the movie, and
the other side of the coin.
He's not going to do right by either of these ladies.
Not at all. So he sucks.
Yeah. He's doing everything he can to juggle both, and I'm like, man. Men will do this till the end of time.
It's horrible. And this guy sucks even more. We'll find out later.
Yeah, wow.
Yes. We'll get there.
Right.
Stay tuned. It's something we love to talk about. So we end up at the museum, right? And Eddie is there with like Guevara or somebody?
Yes.
I don't know who.
It's Guevara.
Okay.
And in this scene, I remember, but there was one shot where they kept switching to him with and without the beard.
Yeah.
I thought it was Adam Driver for a second.
It looks like Kylo Ren.
It does. This brooding, emo asshole looking at art.
He looked so cool, man. Yes. But, it's like a mask exhibit that's there. And so, yeah, I already touched on it a little bit, but it's about, you know, there's a voiceover, I think, by Guevara during this about how, you know, some people wear masks their entire life. You know, some people wear multiple masks. Some are ugly. Some are obvious. Others are extremely hard to tell they are a mask. And, you know, you're never even sure if someone's wearing a mask or not. It is an awesome scene because, everyone's like that. It's extremely rare to be completely yourself with somebody.
Yes, and to know that you are about 16 people, even if you're an honest person, you have all these different personalities that come out depending on who you're with.
Yeah. I've got a work mask, you know. I've got the podcast mask. You've got family mask. Everyone's got masks.
Even within like the podcast mask, you have the on-air mask, and then you have what happens after
the broadcast personality.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. It all happens with everyone, and I mean it's especially important in a trans film because your mask is extremely important dependent on the situation.
Yes, because passing is the most important thing in your life, and it's what you want, it's what you aspire to, and you don't want you're living as a gender you weren't born into, even though this is what you really are. You have to then convince the world you shouldn't have to, but you do, that this is your real gender.
Right. And unfortunately, there's always the risk of violence just because of this.
Correct.
Like most people wearing a normal mask might not get murdered because of that mask.
Yes.
With this, you can.
Absolutely. We're very fortunate in that, like, our masks aren't going to get us beaten up or killed.
Hopefully not.
Right.
Yeah. So wonderful scene. It's one of my favorite in the movie. I just absolutely love it.
Yes.
And like while all this is happening, I think they're intercutting flashbacks. Like we don't know they're flashbacks. They're just weird things for right now. But of a woman like standing against the wall, bleeding from the stomach, like screaming, and it's got like this awesome like Dutch angle and stuff. So like something either is gonna happen or has happened. We don't know. Like at least that's how I felt. Like okay, so that's something we might see later, or who knows.
And do we get the first cutaway to the stabbing before or after there's the short scene of Eddie talking to her mother?
You mean the one I just talked about, or the actual like seeing a stab?
Well, so like when we see the woman just against the wall with the stab wound, screaming.
Yeah, that's this one.
That's this.
Yeah, and I don't think we've seen Eddie talking to her mother yet.
Okay.
I don't think we have. So yeah, it's a complete mystery. Like, who's that woman?
Right.
Yeah, it turns out it's Eddie's mother, and we'll find out more about that when we get there, I guess.
Yes.
And then so now we cut back to Eddie and Tony, the American GI, in the alley again, where we left off with them.
Right.
Like 10 minutes ago.
Right. And I just realized I must not have used the same stream that you did, because I mean, like, it's weird because this alley thing was where I saw the Tony's dialogue being interspersed on screen in English with Eddie's.
Well, maybe it is because I think it cuts mid alley and goes to this other stuff and then comes back mid alley.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah, that's right. We're seeing the same, like them stumbling down the street in two different sequences.
I think they like fall on the ground like laughing, and then it cuts to something, and then it cuts back and they get up and keep going.
Because I was afraid Eddie got hurt because like Tony's a big guy.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Right.
He did not get hurt, I'll tell you that
right.
much, because now they're making love in bed.
Yes. And then, oh man, okay, yes, because then the lovemaking thing, it's shot in kind of a similar way to earlier with Gonda and Eddie, only it's not quite as up close and intimate.
Yeah.
But the camera's a little further back. But then, like after we see them doing it, we cut, and for no reason, the movie like caves in on itself and becomes like Francois Truffaut, like Day for Night. Because, like, it's just, okay, Eddie and Tony are in a movie.
They're filming a love scene.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think, like, Guevara's the director, is he? Because they call him director a couple times.
Do they call him director?
Movie.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, because he also asks Eddie to, like, edit some film together to make something.
Yes.
But yeah, here, someone yells cut, and that's the end of the lovemaking scene.
And then we pull back, there's a full film crew.
There's a whole crew around the bed.
Right.
And then there's another, like, and like they like someone runs in to like help cover up Eddie and stuff, you know?
Uh-huh.
And like, yeah, it's like a real shoot. And then they cut to an interview of Letta talking about like how, you know, it's okay to love someone, whether it's the same sex or not. It doesn't matter. Like, if you love someone, you love someone.
And this is Letta, who we've seen, like, even though she's being treated unfairly by Gonda, she's still kind of the scheming villain.
Yeah.
And we're cutting to a documentary interview with her, in or out of character, we don't know, but we're like, you know, showing that, like, okay, it's wrong to be prejudiced against gay people.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't. It's okay not to like her for her being a jerk, but like, you know, everything's fine.
Yeah, no way, dude. And then we go back to the club, and there's a weird scene here where like the cops show up, and someone tells Gonda, and I think Tony is there too.
Yeah.
That they're here, and then we get a sped up. Like, the film is sped up to, like, 2x, and we get some kind of, like, goofy music as they stash all these drugs away.
Right.
It's so unusual.
I meant to look up this piece of music because it's familiar to me.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what it's called.
It goes, na 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 na. You've heard this a million times. And I remember in The Simpsons, they used it for Otto. It was Hail to the Bus Driver. That was the lyrics that they added to it, but I don't know the name of this piece of music.
If any of you guys out there know this song, tell us.
Right.
I tried to look it up, like humming it, and it didn't work. I was like, all right, thanks, AI.
Right, exactly.
Can't do anything
Wrong
I ask
again,
you to do.
Gemini.
So it's just this weird thing that doesn't come to anything.
Right.
There's no like drug subplot where the cops are trying to get you.
Not really. Like there's definitely like weed around at all times, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not because like, oh, this is the LSD sequence.
Right. And like they talk about like we saw the riots and stuff on the TV, but then there's also like riots in Japan we see.
Yes.
And there's like civil unrest going on. It's kind of like sprinkled in throughout the movie. Not really. So maybe this is like kind of touches on that, the drug culture and stuff.
Well, yeah, that's the
Where
weird
they're
part of
cracking
it.
down.
Like, social mores changing. You know, America. We always think that we're the center of everything, and so we're having like a societal change. It was happening all over the world, and you know, everybody had to go through this pain period in order to like make it so that like people could be left alone and actually be, you know, not so stiff all the time.
Ruled with an iron fist.
Right.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we get after that like Three Stooges scene. we cut to our first real flashback sequence.
Right.
And there's like a boy about maybe like 12 years old or something, and a mom sitting there, and she's telling her son, "Yeah, your dad left. He's gone. Forget about him. There's nothing to worry about anymore." And the boy tells his mom like, "Yeah, it's okay. Like you have me." And then the mom starts laughing at him.
Yes, and I didn't mean to give it away earlier, everybody, but yeah, this is an important, pivotal scene because it's Eddie, who at that time was still living as a male. He's a boy, and he's trying to not assume male dominance or male posturing. He's just trying to comfort his mother, and his mother insults him by laughing at his sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
And inadvertently questions his masculinity as well.
Yeah.
And it leads to some trouble, you know, later on for Eddie.
Right.
Not only with his mother and their home life, but just in general. I mean, like this experience where he was trying to at least, you know, be something, be a protector for his mother, and she doesn't want him to be, and she laughs at the idea that he even could do it.
Yeah, that's no way you can do that.
Right.
What a horrible thing to do to your child.
Yes.
To insult them in that way. And I mean, I think have we seen like there's a photograph in the movie of the father with like a cigarette burn through his face.
Yes.
I think it's popped up like randomly for
It
like
does.
a split second.
They cut
in
to
the
it like
footage.
4 or 5 times, yeah.
And so we realized, okay, so yeah, this is Eddie. His father left, and like he's here with his abusive mother.
Right.
Yeah. And I think we've seen clips interspersed of like an older, like a person who is a father with a boy in a room locked up, like doing things they shouldn't be doing.
Yes.
It's not explicit, but you can tell like this child is trapped here and this guy is going to do something bad.
Right.
Yeah.
All these things are happening to Eddie, you know, as they grow up. And they all affect him in different ways.
Yeah.
On top of that, you have a gender confusion issue.
Yeah. So
and no one to turn to.
Exactly. So it's not a good home life. And so we cut to Letta and Ganda. They start fighting again here, and he ends up smacking her
right
at one point. I thought this was a scene with like a birthday cake, but I think that's later.
It is, yeah. It's weird, like because there's a few different cuts to the two of them in Lita's apartment, and yeah, there's a birthday cake sequence, and then this thing.
I think that's way later,
Right.
but they're almost the exact same.
Right.
But it's just basically Ganda being horrible.
Right, and then Lita also just the same refrain over and over again is her being worried about the relationship between Ganda and Eddie, and she has reason to be worried.
Right. And so I mentioned that Guevara wanted Eddie to cut some footage together. So I guess we cut to that.
Yes.
But we don't know that. We just cut from Letta getting smacked to an image of someone with like a muffled scream with static over it and like heads like twisting back and forth, like it's like a Saw movie or something.
Yes,
you know,
right?
the quick cuts where they're like going but like zooms in and out. It's just this really avant-garde, surrealist footage we're watching, and we don't know what it is because it's not presented as we're watching like the TV or whatever. It's the movie we're watching. This is our movie now,
Right.
and like then it cuts to like Guevara's face and like a serpent and all this weird stuff, and there's strobe lights and everything. It's just really, really crazy stuff. And then after like a minute of this, it turns out that's what Eddie made out of the footage.
Yes.
And Guevara says, "The boundaries of cinema have been broken," which I thought was hilarious.
Now, are they to get just? Is it just Guevara and Eddie in this sequence, or are they surrounded by the others?
It's the whole party. Like
Okay, yeah.
everyone, all the friends are there watching it, and I think everyone else is kind of like, "What the hell is that?"
Right. And this is the part too where I don't know if it's Guevara or the other guy with long hair, but when somebody talks about experimental cinema and they call Jonas Mekas Monas Gekas.
And I think they like correct them.
They do.
It's all,
Yes.
and then they all have a big laugh about
Right.
it. Yeah. Yeah, this is a big like drug-fueled party they have here.
Yes.
Where they all start doing drugs, but then we also get like interviews. I think they're interviewing Guevara about like how he smokes lots of weed.
Yes, right.
And he's like, "It feels like I'm floating," and just all that kind of stuff. You feel numb, like you don't feel like time exists, and things like that.
Right.
And then just like these dozen people are just like hanging out, doing all kinds of drugs, dancing around. They're playing a game where they're doing like they're walking the line to see if they're sober, and
Yeah.
they keep falling over. But it's like strip walk the line. Like if you don't walk it, you have to take off some clothes.
I've never seen this played before. Strip walk the line.
It looked awesome.
It looked like a fun game. Yeah.
And so like they're playing that, and this scene goes on for like at least 5 minutes.
Yes.
And they all start like dancing and kind of like groping each other. It kind of just devolves into an orgy almost.
Yeah, and
Like they're pairing off, but like everyone's getting busy with someone.
And it occurred to me that when you stage an orgy and people come to your house expecting an orgy, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But because you can manage it and make plans, right? But for a spontaneous orgy to happen, somebody has to do something bold. And in this sequence, everybody gets high and they undress to their underwear during that game. But for it to escalate, that one girl, Piero, had to expose herself.
Yes.
And kind of go into the throng. And then it's like it gives everybody else the signal, oh, okay, so that's what we're
Now
it's
we're
that
getting,
kind of
now
party.
we're getting down.
Right.
Here we go. Yeah. There's like this one dude in the party that looks like he doesn't think he's in a movie. Like I don't know if you
Yes.
know, he's like a little shorter and stockier.
And he doesn't look like a college student.
No, he looks a lot older.
Yes.
They probably just found him at the club somewhere.
I know,
And
it's
was like,
some
"Hey, you want to be
dude."
in a movie?" He's like, "Yeah, okay."
Okay, sure.
Yeah, give me some drugs. Yeah. He looks like baked out of his mind, and he's just kind of like dancing around, like his arms are flopping a little. Like, yeah, he doesn't look like he's in a movie. But it's hilarious. I think he starts making out with Eddie or something. Like,
Yeah.
dude.
Right. He does all right.
Yeah, he makes out pretty well.
Yep.
He turns out fine. Yeah. So I think we get a title card here also that just flashes the word roses on the screen.
Yes. These interstitials of the word roses. And then we cut right back to where we were. I mean, but is it significant? Is it just trying to play with your head? Is it just trying to make you think you're high?
Yeah.
Is it giving you, like it trying to set more of the mood of like, okay, all these people are doing drugs. This might be what they're thinking of. There's a million different interpretations, and it's become my stock interpretation of all surrealist imagery. I ask myself 6 questions, and instead of just like letting it flow over me.
That's okay. I think
Yeah.
that's the intent. You're
Right.
supposed to be asking questions.
Right.
All right, Dave, I think now's a good time to take a break. How about we do that, and we'll come back to the party.
Yes.
Social media. It's all the rage these days. And if you take part in this racket, head over to Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, or TikTok and search for Dudes on Movies. Why, you might ask? Because we post supplemental material regarding the movies we're discussing. Photos from the films, behind-the-scenes articles, question of the week videos, and more. So if you want to be a part of the action, get over there and follow us now before this social media fad goes away. It's finally here, Dave. The Dudes on Movies merch store is live.
Holy God, everybody. We now have apparel and other swag with our names and logo on it.
That's right, dudes. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, mugs, stickers, and that's about it for the moment, but still, it's a lot of what you want.
Yes, and what better way to tell the world about your favorite podcast than to walk around town repping our names? For the shirts, the store even allows you to pick your colors so you can make it in your own style.
Well, how about that? So if you guys want to support us, please head over to dudesonmovies.com/merch. We'd really appreciate it. All right, Dave, we're back from the break. Let's catch up with Letta and Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
So they get into a fight.
Yeah.
Because I guess Eddie walks into the club or something, and Letta confronts Eddie about the affair.
Right.
And what I like about this sequence is it goes crazy. Because it starts playing like Western music, and it just like smash cuts to them wearing like cowboy hats, and they're holding pistols in their hands like in a duel, but they're like pop guns with a little cork in the end. And they start like circling each other. You hear like the sounds of horses galloping and stuff.
Right.
And like all the onlookers are like in a saloon almost. Like I think 3 of her friends like pop their head through the curtain, like one on top of the other, like 3 in a row. And I think, is it Ganda? He's like tied up in the rafters with a rope swinging there.
Yeah.
Like he's like the girl who's been tied to the train track or something. It's so crazy.
It is, and I just love how the idea of an avant-garde film doing everything it can to subvert your expectation, and then in a movie that's shown you some extreme psychotic stuff, and you know you're in an art film where they're not going to like shy away from showing you anything. Let's have the characters not kill one another. Let's give them pop guns.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give them toys. You know, because people are expecting blood and guts. No, what we're getting is this.
It's so good. It's essentially like a cat fight, you know? That's not real like danger with this confrontation.
No, right.
And so they're circling around, like we get the guns like firing a couple times, and then what I really love, it kind of culminates with close-ups of their faces, like facing each other in profile, like one on each side, and they're yelling at each other, but it's a freeze frame of their mouths open, and then we get speech bubbles that come out of their mouths with insults to each other. Like one will pop up and will say like whore, and then the other's tramp, loser, F-slur, and like all this stuff. C-word. Yeah, so like it's really funny and interesting because they could have just filmed them yelling at each other, right?
Yeah.
This is such an extra effort to make it unique. And I really appreciate that. It makes the movie unlike anything else.
And this is another inspiration moment because when you see the 2 faces in profile, the Children's Television Workshop took this and did a variation on it like later on Sesame Street to teach you phonics. They did the same effect, but it was like the faces in silhouette, and words are coming out of people's mouths, to make compound words, and I just remember it. I remember it so vividly. Like they used that in so many episodes of Sesame Street, and I had no idea that it originally came from an obscure Japanese experimental avant-garde film.
Yeah, Sesame Street didn't have like hooker coming out of their mouth, you know, but. That's awesome. Like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yep.
That's how I learned compound words.
Of course, right.
But yeah, this is such an awesome fight they have here. I love it so much. I said I love the museum scene, but I really love this one too.
Yeah, this is a favorite for me as well.
Yeah, and I think at some point they do actually start like slapping each other. And
right.
I think Eddie gets hit on the head with a bottle of wine or something. And
yeah,
it's all sped up again like that drug sequence earlier when they're hiding the drugs, and it's played for comedic laughs, you know. And there's like that weird playground song going on in the background. I wish I knew what that was called.
So do I. I mean, it's got to be something.
It's like an old nursery rhyme type thing.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, what a great scene. And then Eddie and Guevara later end up going to, I called it the Space Needle, like the Seattle Space Needle, but it's like a big tower with a circular, top where you walk around and overlook the city, right? And so they're going up this elevator to the top, but the camera is in the elevator going up through like all the like iron holding it together. I don't know what you call them, but you see us going up through this, and they have some voiceover about outlines. How when you see an outline of something, was there something there that's now gone? Or was there never really something there? It's fantastic stuff that really makes you think.
I love this weird drug talk.
Yeah.
Because, that is such a question you would ask if you were high. And it made me think of cartoons when, like someone's body is lifted into the air by the smell of a pie. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes like somebody really wants a drumstick and they just go, and then they disappear, but there's still a them-shaped cloud there.
Yeah.
It's like that. And so they're talking about that, but in real life.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
And then we see them looking down from this tower, and the camera shows a bunch of like outlines on the ground of a basketball court and like a soccer field, and it sits there for a minute as they're talking about outlines, and I'm like, that is really cool, man. And so while they're up there, Eddie looks over and notices like this little toddler running around, and they make eye contact. Actually, the toddler spikes the camera. What a amateur actor.
That's right, exactly.
This cute little kid, man. And it triggers something in Eddie. He like remembers his past.
Right.
And so we get a scene of him about the same age as we saw before. He's sitting in front of his mother's like makeup vanity mirror and stuff, and starts applying lipstick, and the title card says, "Let the day I was born perish and disappear," which is a cool sentence.
Yeah, it's very poetic.
Yes. So he's putting lipstick on very slowly, and then when he's done, he like closes his eyes and he cries. And then he sensually kisses himself in the mirror, which I don't know about you. I love that image for some reason of someone kissing themselves in a mirror. It's just interesting.
Well, it's a very private moment.
Yeah.
You would only do this if you thought for sure you were by yourself.
Yes. And he's not, apparently, because his mother comes in and sees it and starts smacking the shit out of him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's one of these moments of bad parenting where you are, well, you should never do this to your child for any reason, but if you're doing it because they had the temerity to express a healthy sexual curiosity, that is about as unacceptable parenting as it gets.
Yeah, you can walk in, they might be embarrassed, but like you don't just smack them.
Exactly.
You don't hit them.
It's
ridiculous.
Oh my God, the idea of like just trying to beat it out of them.
You need to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I barged in," and they might be embarrassed. You might not even have to say anything.
Right.
If you do, say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I understand that very private thing. I didn't mean to come in. It's okay."
Right.
And that's okay that you're doing that.
If you do make your presence known, yeah, exactly. Like it's going to be awkward as hell.
Yeah, no
because
matter
they're going
what.
to be really humiliated. But yeah.
And so, I guess we come back from this, and Eddie is having drinks with Guevara, like down at the restaurant there or something like that.
Yes, and there was also when you mentioned the title card, can you repeat that again? The phrase about
"Let the day I was born perish and disappear."
Okay, so it could be Eddie referring to either the day they were born actually came out of their mother's womb, or was it the day that they were born to being a trans woman?
I thought the same thing.
Right.
I'm not sure. Because they're talking about the day I was born perish and disappear. So maybe it's no longer Eddie the man, it's Eddie the woman.
But it's like...
But the mother came in
Exactly.
and ruined this rebirth.
Yes. It was supposed to be a very special thing, and it's completely tainted because of the mother.
Yeah. And that's what great movies do, right?
Yeah.
We can interpret this in a few different ways.
Yes.
And it's beautiful both ways.
It is.
It's tragic in both ways.
Right.
But man, I love it. And so like the next scene when they are at this restaurant or whatever, we get another really artistic shot of the two of them talking, Guevara and Eddie. And it's like a front-facing shot of both of them. Like Eddie's in the foreground and Guevara's behind Eddie. But we only see the upper half of Eddie's face from like the nose up, but we see the bottom half of Guevara's face from like the nose down.
Right.
So like as they're talking, it's almost like they're one and the same in this moment.
I know.
It's very interesting.
Uh-huh.
And they're talking about how like I don't know, if you walk a lot, like you're wandering and stuff. More getting high on drugs conversation,
Of course,
right? Like, but it is just a beautiful shot in a movie that's filled with awesome shots.
Yes, right. And it's another instance too of just, you know, okay, so any surrealist film, is this weird for the sake of weird, or is this expressing something else? Well, we'll leave it up to the viewer to interpret.
It made me think of Hedwig and the Angry Inch with The Origin of Love.
Yeah.
How like there's the two pieces and stuff to form one. This isn't exactly that. Like it's a top of a head and a bottom of a head kind of, but it reminded me of that. Like the people aren't whole, even though they think they might be. And like the other piece is right there somehow.
Right.
You know, I haven't thought that out very well, but I mean, that's what I'm like feeling in my gut. It's something along those lines.
Right.
Yeah. Good stuff, Dave. I'm glad we did this movie. I was
me too.
pleasantly surprised when it was over.
Of course,
because
yes.
Dave and I hadn't, like I said, we went in blind with this one, and you never know what you're going to get. This was definitely worth it.
Yes, and it's anytime you do something surrealist or this unconventional, there's always the chance that like you're afraid you didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then it's just the biggest fear. And,
what are we going to talk about?
Right. And I mean, like, I've been taught this lesson over and over again my whole movie-going life, that when you're dealing with something like this, you always do get it. I don't know why I still like maintain this thing of like I'm gonna watch this, I'm gonna miss the point entirely. Well, that's the good thing about it, is that I don't. There's never been a time when I did. And even if someone else has a completely different interpretation than I did, they're both valid.
Yep.
And as long as we can both express what we saw and make some sense of it, we'll be fine.
And unless it's Starship Troopers, I would say.
Okay,
that might be.
Here, let me amend this. When we're talking about surrealist stuff, not when something is just obviously like it's not even it's a single entendre about Nazi and fascism. Yes,
It's an obvious metaphor.
Exactly.
Yes, I got you. Yeah.
Yes.
So we get another flashback here, and this one goes all the way right here. So we flash back and we see Eddie's mother with a man.
Right.
They're about to have sex, and Eddie notices this and is kind of watching them. So they go and they grab a knife, and he comes in, and he ends up stabbing the guy. But the shot is like we're following Eddie through the doorway into the bedroom, and he's like approaching this man, and then stabs him. And then he kind of like runs out of the room, stumbles, crawling, and Eddie comes back and stabs him again, and he like falls down the stairs. And then we turn around with Eddie towards his mother as she's screaming in terror, and she's trying to run away from him a little bit, but gets hung up by the door. And then we get a shot of Eddie getting real close to her as she's like cowering in fear against the wall, and we're kind of low, and it's that Dutch angle I was talking about.
Right.
We see Eddie enter the frame with the knife like in his hand, like down by his waist, and he just like plunges it forward, and then it cuts to like just Eddie in the image as he's thrusting, and like a fountain of blood sprays all over him. So we don't see the stabbing actually happen, but we see it just like gush out at him. It's a very alarming moment because we hadn't seen anything like that in this film. This is like pure gore and violence.
Right. We were not prepared for that level of gore, and we certainly weren't prepared for the angle that they used it. I mean, like, if anything, it was going to like come out of the mother. And instead, they changed the angle and have the person doing the stabbing get hit with the blood.
Yes, and we had been preempted that we already knew she's getting stabbed like in her abdomen.
Right.
And she's holding it. We didn't expect a fountain of guts to fly out. Like, so that is awesome how they set up our expectations, then gave us something completely different.
Man, this movie's pretty good.
This movie is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Eddie has killed his mother.
Right. And and this is another obviously instance of the Oedipus Rex thing.
Yes.
And well, we'll talk about the other aspect of
If
Oedipus
you are
Rex.
familiar with this tale,
Right.
you might know where we're going with this.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's a shocking scene and quite awesome.
Although I guess I'm just realizing now that the overall narrative is similar to Oedipus Rex, but it definitely turned it and it made it something completely not the opposite, but almost in a mirror universe because the the mother doesn't get stabbed in that play. It's something different. And
yes.
Yeah, and then there's the gender issue too. And wow, this movie has a lot of stuff in it.
This is an amazingly well done reinterpretation.
Absolutely,
it's awesome. And so we cut to I guess Eddie's freaking out, and Guevara shakes Eddie hey, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Snaps her out of it.
Right.
Eddie's crying in his arms, and they end up kissing here, and it cuts to them making love, and it's playing that schoolyard song over it.
Right.
But this time the film's in negative. And it's the close-ups we've seen several times, right?
Uh-huh.
Of really close up with that stark black and white image, but it's reversed. It's film negative, so it's just totally shocking.
Right. And anytime I see any kind of film in negative like that, it reminds me of the first time I remember when I was a kid and saw, lightning and thunder.
Yeah.
And it was a really bad storm. And for a moment, just a moment, I have this sense memory of actually seeing things in negative.
Yeah.
And it just stuck with me.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
The film negative is so fascinating.
I
I don't know how film development works. Or anything. I've never done that.
Right.
But I've always found it extremely fascinating how the image is taken a certain way and then it gets transformed into this other thing.
Yes. And I remember too when you would get your prints back from the photo lab, there was the negatives would come with the case.
Yeah, dude.
And you could hold it up and see a picture of your mom looking satanic.
I was just about to say it. Your mom looks like the devil in these. Her skin is just see-through and her eyes are blazing. Yeah.
It's Queen of the Damned.
Yes, dude. And so they're making love. And we hear someone else yell, "Cut!" I guess they're shooting another film or something.
Yes.
And we cut to more interviews with people. I think they ask PETA about Eddie this time. What do you think of Eddie? What do you think of the main character? And they say she's just like me. We lost our fathers when we were young. We have similar personalities and lifestyles. And they ask her, "What made you do this film?" And they just say I'd never done one before, and it just interested me. But then she also says, it portrays gay boys beautifully. And I think that's right. It totally does.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And, boy, this is, to just stop the movie and start, interviewing your lead actor.
Yeah.
And there's no confusion about it. The interviewer asked, "So what do you think about Eddie, PETA?"
It's fascinating that this is a movie that's filled with so much interpretation,
right,
that they stop it to tell you something that you can't misinterpret.
Right.
It's okay to be trans, it's okay to be gay, and it's beautiful.
Man, yeah, such an amazing statement, whether it's 1969 or today, and I can't believe that this didn't happen in a more, well, in the West at least. I mean, I'm just really searching in my archives, trying to think of any movie. I'm sure it happened in literature, but not in film, not in the most popular art form, of our times.
My Rolodex can't find anything.
Right.
We need to deep dive.
We do.
We need to find some sources on this. And maybe next year we'll throw something in.
There you go. Right.
That sounds good. Anyone out there, if you know some things, let us know.
Yes, if we're missing something, please let us know.
And so now we see some of the Japanese riots happening.
Right.
And there's protests about the corruption and government and schooling systems just being horrible and the same kind of crap we're dealing with in America, right?
Of course, right.
And So Eddie ends up like leaving her apartment, and she sees a man who was at the protest, like in the hallway, who's been beaten and he's bloodied and all that. So she takes care of him and patches him up and stuff like that. And they have a great dialogue about, a bunch of stuff, but mainly like they're talking about how you got to choose violence for one of two reasons. And it's either you choose violence to stop violence in the future, or you choose violence to continue violence in the future.
Man.
Which is a profound statement. That's what like wars are about, right? Like one person is being violent so they can keep being violent, and the other person is being violent to stop the violence.
And another statement that could be interpreted any number of ways. I mean, this could be, someone entreating for peace, or this could be a fascistic statement of being warlike. Whoever, it depends on the audience to know what's going to be taken from.
Right, yeah. I mean, we mentioned the director Toshio Matsumoto also wrote this, I think. What a profound man.
Right.
This is amazing stuff.
Yes, it's quite a statement.
Yeah. I think at this point is when we cut to like Eddie and her friends walking down the street, and they're all looking great, right?
Yeah.
They're all looking like $1 million. And then these other three women, like another group of good-looking women, walk by. They are non-trans women. They're cis women.
Yes.
And they say something derogatory to our protagonists, and they end up getting in an argument and a fight in the street. And for some reason, like the evil women here, the ones who are starting shit, they like reveal they have like gang tattoos or something, like they're Yakuza maybe. I don't know what it means. I can't read like the kanji symbol that's on their arm. I don't know what it is, but then they have like a sped up cat fight, like another 2x speed sequence.
And they use that same carnival refrain again. And right before the fight started, and after they were walking down the street from the shopping center and everything, Eddie and her two friends, they walk into the men's room.
Yeah.
And they're standing at the urinals, having a piss.
Yep.
And it reminds me, obviously, of the ridiculous controversy today about, what bathroom people have to use.
Oh, my gosh.
And it occurred to me that, like, if you have a problem with, like, trans women going into, the women's restroom, so which is worse? Which is better? Do you want to see, like, a trans woman walking into the men's room and doing this? Imagine a woman walking into a men's room and going to the urinal to take a piss.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
They can't.
Right. It's
It'll get everywhere.
Exactly. And on top, well, it'll get it. No, it's more that it's like they want to sit down. They want to sit down in a stall. Like the whole
Heck, I
point
do
of,
half the time.
I mean, God damn
fine,
it.
it's comfortable.
Oh my God. Yeah. This is a stupid ass argument.
It's the dumbest argument ever because they're going to get in there and rape our children.
That's what everybody, like, people like, there's a politician, Nancy Mace, who that's what she claims. That's what's going to happen. And fuck all of this shit.
Yes.
And it was so, like, it was so strange to watch this movie and see that image of the three women standing at urinals, like, peeing all over. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. Like, wow. Obviously, in 1969, they couldn't have known that like we'd be having this conversation 56 years later. But still, yeah.
I think if you gotta go, you gotta go. Go wherever you can go.
Honestly, Jesus Christ.
What drives me the most nuts is if you'll go to a restaurant or something. They have a men's room and a women's room.
Yeah.
Each room has one toilet. Yes. Like, why don't just make them both open to everybody? It's ridiculous.
I know. The great thing about Alamo Drafthouse is there is no, it's all genders bathrooms.
I've been to a few places where like they have like the male and female symbol on there, but then they also have like all kind of interlocking stuff on it. Right. Whatever you want.
And the stalls extend, from the ceiling to the floor.
Every stall should do that anyway.
If it was just like
some
private
privacy.
water closet for you, then
Yes.
we'd even apart from gender issues, it would just be a nice thing.
In America, we have the worst stalls ever, and they're always broken and stuff. They
I know.
don't lock. The doors are hanging off.
Sometimes there's way too much space between the lock mechanism
somebody
and the
just come in and look right through.
Yes, thinking like an inch of partition there where you can just see everything you want.
Yes.
Sucks.
It's amazing, right? But don't let a trans person use the bathroom there,
damn
Dave.
it.
That's the problem.
Fuck.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back.
Yes, I knew that particular sequence was going to like sidetrack everything, and I just, yeah.
That's all right. It's fine.
Yeah.
So I think next is when the cake, I guess. I
Yeah.
couldn't figure out when this was, but it's now.
Right.
Yeah. Letta has like baked a cake for Gonda for some reason. I don't know why. But they're at her apartment. She made a cake, and he comes in. He's having a bad day. They start fighting again. He gets mad, and he like kicks her, and she goes flying into the table, and like the cake goes flying and stuff. I thought it was kind of funny. Like, not that he's abusing her, but
Yeah.
like it looked fake, kind of like how he did it, and like they cut to her flying into the table, but it doesn't look accurate, like the right angle or anything.
Right.
But
It was kind of a slapsticky moment.
yeah, it was a little slapsticky, and like the editing didn't make it look consistent and stuff. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, he starts yelling at her. She I think Letta doesn't love him.
Right.
He's gaslighting her again. You only want to be with me because you want to be the madam at our hostess house here.
Right.
Like you don't care about me. And then he like says something really like vile to her. I think he says like you got old and it's over for you.
Yes.
Something like that.
Everything
Jerk move.
Everything she's feared, he just like says it full on. Yeah.
And he says it hurtfully.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not just like saying, hey, this is what happens. He digs it in.
Yeah, he knows what's going to hurt her, and he says it exactly in those words.
Yes. So we have even more reason to hate this guy.
Right.
We'll get more.
Yes.
We keep alluding to this thing. I can't. Okay.
We will get there.
We will get there. And so we cut to the club again, and Eddie is dressed very nicely now. Like, she's wearing this really like sexy dress here. And I thought she had been appointed the madam at this point, but I don't think she was.
No.
I think that comes a little later. But I think at this point there's a bunch of guys asking her how the movie is going. And she says, "Oh, it's really good. It's going well. It's we're almost done. It's very unusual." And I think it's Eddie in the scene talking about the movie, not Peta.
Right.
But we've been so confused about who's doing interviews and stuff throughout the whole movie. Like, I don't think it matters. But then it smash cuts as she's saying this. It smash cuts to her in front of like Pasolini's Oedipus Rex posters, like doing like a pose.
Right.
And then there's a guy like kind of to the side wearing some weird glasses and stuff. It's a weird just freeze frame thing almost, but it's not a freeze frame. And then a guy holding a dead rat kind of like lurches across the front of the screen for some reason.
That part, I'm still, I don't know what that's about.
Because she says it's very unusual. And then it cuts to this, like, and he walks across holding a rat, and like Beethoven's Fifth is happening. Yes. It's like dun 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 while they're doing this. And then a title card spins into the screen and says, "Applause requested." Dude, it might be the most far out thing they did in the movie, like the most unusual thing they did.
Well, and to begin with, when those guys ask Eddie, "How's the movie going?" Yeah, it's not they're not talking to Peta in the moment. They're talking to Eddie, the character, and Eddie is in a movie in the movie.
Oh man, yeah, you're right.
Right.
My brain just got incepted.
Exactly.
Like, this is
right.
You're right. Yeah.
So everything that came after that, all the surrealist imagery, like that's in our movie, but it's not in Eddie's.
Yes. Okay. You guys got that? Like Rick Moranis and Spaceballs here.
Dude, exactly. No, my Lord.
We're at now.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think Eddie gets a phone call at this point while she's at the club. And then it cuts to a POV shot of someone moving through an apartment hallway and down into a bedroom or into an apartment. And we get in there, and there's a bunch of people kind of standing around. I think Gonda's there, and we end up seeing Letta on her bed, and she's dead. But she's been put in what looks like a wedding gown.
Yeah.
And she's covered in artificial roses. So I think, our POV was Eddie coming to the scene. And then the camera looks down, and next to the bed are 2 voodoo dolls. One of them has a nail through the throat, and the other one has 2 nails through the eyes. Pretty crazy stuff.
It's evocative, too.
Yes. Yeah. It makes you think, okay, why is that there?
Right.
What happened? And what's going to happen?
And we know that, surrealist movies, they traffic in a lot of this stuff, but it also tries to maintain a narrative sometimes. And when there is no Chekhov's voodoo doll, but it exists in the world of this film, at least. And
I love it. They're not when I think of a typical voodoo doll, they're long and lanky and made of straw and stuff, like most voodoo stuff is. But
right.
This is a Japanese curse thing, I guess. You wouldn't call it voodoo,
for lack of a better term.
Because that's an American,
right.
Gulf of Mexico, Latin America thing.
Yes.
And so they're these little Japanese dolls, not big giant voodoo dolls. It's really cool looking.
Yeah.
I love the imagery.
Right.
And so now they go to our funeral. Everyone's there, and someone says she loved roses, but they had to be artificial ones, which I love that because we already talked about how rose means it's slang for gay boy or something.
Yeah, right.
So Letta loves the gay boys.
Right.
She was one of them, and yeah.
And then it's also like you said, how it's that there's because of a translation issue, it leads to the word pansy, which is a derogation.
Yeah, definitely. And so they're in the cemetery, and as they're walking through the cemetery, I guess it's flooding in parts of the cemetery.
Yes.
This is some of the best imagery, I think, actual cinematography, and
right.
This cemetery is literally flooded. There's a half a foot of water up on these headstones.
Right.
They're partially submerged, and you just hear the sound of the wind blowing as it's cutting between these different headstones. And everyone kind of walking through. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. And I wish I could read kanji, because there's a few times where the camera stops on some, and it's the big, I forget what you call them, but they're giant poles almost with words written on them in kanji. And they just sit on a few of those. And I wish there were subtitles for what it meant. I'm sure there's some meaning in what those were.
Right. And whenever there's not subtitles, I'm disappointed, but I'm also thinking, because we're watching this, I'm well, maybe there's a reason they don't want me to know what this is.
Ah, yeah. There's another meta thing about it.
Right.
Maybe Canopy is Americans can't know this.
Perhaps that's right. These foreign devils.
Yeah, dude. No way. That would be something if a streaming service is tampering with that. Don't mess with the art, people. Come on, just let it speak. But yeah, I love it. And then after we see this whole thing in the cemetery, Eddie is there kind of just looking over this muck and says, "I hope the whole city sinks." Which is so cool.
Pretty great.
Just fuck this place, man.
Right.
This sucks.
Right.
But now Eddie is the madam.
Yes, Eddie is promoted.
Yes, she got the job.
Right.
Secret to her success.
Uh-huh.
And I guess she gets Letta's room.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. She's redecorating the whole thing.
Yes, because this is where the madam lives.
Oh yeah, I guess it is at the above the.
Yep.
I guess you want to call it a brothel. I know it's a hostess place.
Yeah,
which is similar.
Right.
Yeah.
But you live at the club and you run the Genet.
Mm-hmm. So then we get more interviews with Guevara, and I think he's not wearing his beard in the interviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he says something about wanting to save money and open his own gay bar. He's not sure if he wants to get married and this kind of normal stuff, kind of what are you going to do after this?
Right.
You know?
Right. It's very everyday stuff.
Yeah. And then they cut to another person who I think we've seen in the movie, but they didn't really have a prominent role. It might have been one of Eddie's friends or something. But they're yeah, I have no plans. I'm just living for now. They ask, "Are you happy?" And they say no. And they ask why, and they say for no particular reason. They're just not happy.
And this is what reminded me of My Own Private Idaho, is all the cutaways in that movie to interviews with characters that it's not even halfway related to the plot of the movie.
Mhm.
They're just interviewing this person and asking them seemingly, innocuous questions.
Yeah.
Actually, there's not even seemingly about it. They just are like, hey, did you see that game the other night? Like
Yeah,
they
right,
might as well ask that.
That's what this is pretty much.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I do like how it jumps from someone who has plans and hopes for the future to this other person who has no plan and no care or regard for it, and they're just unhappy because that's how it is.
Right, right.
And so everything's great for Eddie now, right? They're head of the club. They got Ganda all to themselves, and we see the two of them making love again.
Right.
They're kissing. I think we get like a whole love scene with like strobe lights and people partying and dancing and all kinds of stuff. And
Yes.
after they make love, Eddie is in the shower and Ganda is out in the living room somewhere, kind of like poking around. And he's going through the records that she has, trying to find some tunes to put on. And in the records, there is the photo that has the cigarette burn through Eddie's father's face. And it falls on the ground, and he picks it up and he takes a look at it, and we get a close-up of the photograph where the burn is. You can kind of like half see the face a little bit. It's partial. And then it like cuts right back to Ganda's face, and it's the same face. Apparently, Ganda is Eddie's father.
We can't help it, everybody. Movies where incest drives the plot is just going to be our life's work and our legacy, and at this point, it's inescapable.
Yes.
There's a movie I love that I haven't even put on our schedule because I'm afraid the listeners will be like, oh, now they're just doing this on purpose. I haven't named the film because it'll be a major spoiler, and we may do it one day, but I need to pray on it first because we've just done too much lately. And this one especially, I just...
Yeah, it's unplanned. It just happens.
And listen, we've also talked about homages on this show a lot. And our unofficial stance is that if an artist acknowledges the inspiration and does something new with it, it's fine, right?
Yes.
I've never heard Park Chan-wook or Garen Tsuchiya talk about the ending of Funeral Parade of Roses, but one of them must have been familiar with it
They had
because
to have, right?
Old Boy uses elements of... It's almost like just taken exactly from this.
Yeah. This is inescapable for us now, Dave.
It is. It is just what we are. It's who we are.
I wish it wasn't.
Me too.
What was the first episode we did with incest?
Well, I can't remember what Patient Zero was.
We'll have to
go through the archives and figure it out.
I think for our year in review for 2025, we'll make that a feature.
That's part of our homework.
Yeah,
yes.
that's what we'll do. Oh, that's horrible homework. God damn. But yeah, he notices this and immediately Eddie like leaves the bathroom in a towel, all sexy. They just made love,
Right.
And he goes into the bathroom and grabs a knife. There's like a huge knife in this bathroom for some reason.
Yes, this is not something you find in a bathroom.
It's like ornate and has like a sheath and everything.
It's a real nice knife.
Maybe this is in Japan. Maybe they kept knives in there for some reason. I don't know.
My God,
but
I mean, it doesn't go with the rest of the decor of the place at all.
Toilet paper, face cream, knife.
Killing knife.
Like, yes, this is like a samurai sidearm.
Yeah, this is what someone uses to murder somebody with.
So he grabs the knife. He's in the bathroom. Eddie's out in the living room, drying their hair or whatever, and she hears a crash from the bathroom. Sounds like something just shattered on the floor. So they run in there, and Eddie looks in and sees there's just blood all over Ganda. Like, he's still standing, but he like turns around and he's kind of stumbling. He had slit his own throat.
Right.
And he like grabs the shower curtain and falls down, and he's just bleeding everywhere and dies. It's a shocking thing for Eddie to discover. And so we see like flashbacks to the voodoo dolls.
Right.
Of the knife in the throat and then 2 nails in the eyes. So Eddie grabs the knife out of Ganda's hand and stabs himself in the eye. And it is a real gore effect.
Yeah.
It's a spurt. We see it go in, and then we see it come out, and it's prosthetic with like blood pulsing out of it.
Right. It's
a real gore effect. And then they do the other eye. Oh, man.
And even in black and white, it's a lot to take.
It is. And what's horrible about it is, I mean, it's horrible no matter what, right? But, like, what I really like is, I don't know if they do this on the first eye, but I know they do it on the second eye. Instead of stabbing the knife into the eye, they, like, have the knife kind of vertical in front of them, and they lower their face right into it.
Yeah.
Which is, man, I can't imagine doing that.
I know. I can't imagine doing it with a prop knife even.
I can't imagine doing this at all, man.
Because you know how when you are trying to like there's an eyelash or something in there, and like your eye just instinctively closes when your finger gets too close. And now, okay, there's a blade there, and I don't want knives anywhere near my face, but especially my eyes.
Oh yeah, no way, dude.
Right.
Yeah, and so especially like those like trick knives, like the plastic ones that
my
like go
gosh,
into
yes,
the
of
handle.
course. Right.
My brother stabbed me with one of those. It did not go into the handle.
No.
Knocked my tooth out.
Oh, dude.
It was a loose tooth already, though.
Okay, but still,
I was
like
at Six Flags. I was in a tunnel in the play area, and we each had our knives that we had got from like the claw machine or some shit. Cost like $80 for these things probably, and we're like sneaking around stabbing each other in this tunnel. We were like 5 or 6 years old, and he jumped around and goes "Ha!" right into my mouth, dude.
Oh.
And then I remember going to like the Lion Head fountain and like drinking the water from this kid fountain to mend my wound.
Man, and it's moments like that, I'm sure, as your parents probably thought you were, like about to die.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's probably blood everywhere.
There was probably hardly any blood, but the way I remember it was like Eddie's mom.
Oh,
I
of
was
course.
spraying
Yes,
everywhere.
that's right.
Like
It was a gusher.
It had to be bad. Got some money from the Tooth Fairy, though.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. But yeah, 2 eye stabs and a throat slit. And then we cut to a cheerful man in a suit saying, "Wow, what a unique film filled with shock and horror. Let's look forward to the next film. Goodbye, goodbye."
I was like, okay, I think that guy says it all, obviously. And I love its inclusion because why not comment on it? Like, we just showed you something wild, right?
Yeah.
And we know it is. We know what a shock this is going to be. So in order to keep you smiling, we're just going to have this guy come in and comment on it and just say what you're thinking.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good. It changes the tone entirely, right?
It does.
It goes from horror to disbelief almost.
But it fits this movie.
It totally does.
If they did this in Blue Velvet, you can't have that.
Right, yeah. Wow, Frank Booth really loves Pabst Blue Ribbon, doesn't he? Yes, no, it fits entirely into this film.
Yeah.
It's perfect. I'm glad it's there. It's better that it's there.
Right, right.
Like, it would still be effective without it. It's shocking, and, it punctuates the end of the film. It culminates. But this just reminds you, hey, you're watching Funeral Parade of Roses.
Right.
This is not the normal... This is not your mom's Oedipus Rex.
That's right, exactly. We're doing surrealism here, everybody, so just get ready for something weird.
Yes, your mom's Oedipus Rex would be really weird too, wouldn't it? Like...
Well, yes. I mean, yes, exactly. If we go to 6,000 years ago...
we don't want anyone's Oedipus Rex to happen to anyone.
We definitely don't. No. Yeah, that's been weird for thousands of years.
God damn it. I always want to say Socrates wrote it. I know it's not Socrates. It's a similar name.
It's a similar name.
I can't remember whose
right,
it is, but...
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head either.
Yeah. Socrates, we'll say. But yeah, so then we just cut right back from this dude to Eddie stumbling like out of the bathroom, bleeding everywhere. Both eyes just totally destroyed. And then we get another POV shot of Eddie walking through the hallway of this building, and there's onlookers in the building that are frightened, and they're like backing against the wall like, oh my God.
Right.
And Eddie ultimately goes out into the street and starts like staring at everyone, and there's a crowd of onlookers. Must be like 100 people out here, and it feels like a lot of these aren't actors. They're probably just people who were walking by.
And I was wondering about that myself because, they're either giving a really good performance as curious onlookers, or this is just like they did this art piece in the middle of the street because they're having the right reaction to what they're seeing. They're kind of amused, but they're also really interested.
Yeah, and they're all like, some people are more shocked than others.
Yes.
Some people are just like, what should we do? You know?
And I mean, this image of Eddie standing there with her eyes gouged out, if these are real people who were non-actors, they didn't leave for work this morning thinking they were going to see, the end of Oedipus Rex.
Right, yes. And they probably did have some idea this is a film because
Sure.
the camera's there, and the camera, it doesn't cut. We like follow Eddie out from behind.
Yeah.
And then as we get out of the building and into the sunlight, it circles around Eddie so we see their face, and then it like moves along the crowd. And so like we follow everyone's face from one side and circle, like go through the crowd a little bit, but like ultimately circle and end up back with Eddie.
Yeah.
So like they know like the camera is filming this. Like
They're
this
aware
is,
of it.
it has to be a film, but yeah, it probably still is shocking. Like, oh, look at that.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
mean, like, there's the. I think they're plugged in enough to know that that this isn't really happening, but they're still kind of like, why are they showing this to me?
Yes. So we get back to Eddie's face, and then it cuts. That's the end of the film.
Right.
What a tragedy, man! What
yes.
a tragedy. And on this print I watched, it does have dedicated to the memory of Toshio Matsumoto at the end. So
Right.
I guess they added that because I think he died in 2017.
Okay.
And that's when they did the restoration, so maybe they just added that on.
The weird thing is, we've been talking about this Canopy stream, and I just realized I may have gotten the DVD from the library. That might have been what I watched.
I tried to, and I'm on the wait list. Maybe you stole it from me.
That could have been it. Okay, so
it is on Night Flight, too.
Yeah, I saw that after, like, I was looking on Night Flight for something else, and I saw it was there, too. I was like, I had 2 chances at it for streaming, but I went to the library and stole the one copy in the state of Missouri.
Well, when you returned it, I'll get it, and I'll watch it again,
there you go,
maybe.
right.
Oh, man, Dave, that's the film.
Uh-huh.
Do you have anything else?
Just a couple of things. Like, I like how they document that everyone's gender experience is different, and how if you're feeling more of one gender or non-gender now than you did 6 months ago, that can keep evolving. It could be day to day even. And today we've defined it more clearly where people can identify as, gender queer or non-binary.
Yeah.
But back then they didn't have a word for it. And also, too, the significance of Jean Genet, in addition to the Oedipus Rex thing, like the bar is called the Genet.
Yeah.
And if you read any of like Jean Genet's work, it's filled with this kind of stuff, like a lot of surrealist gay imagery. And there's been a couple of films made from his work. The most famous one is probably Querelle, which was a Fassbender film.
Yeah.
And also, too, I know we're always talking about how it's always best to see movies in the theater with other people. Like, that's the ultimate experience, and you should always do it. But I think that for art films that require more analysis, you can probably get a lot out of it by viewing it again by yourself after the first viewing, so that you can then pause and rewind if needed, and then review everything more thoroughly. Because I have a feeling that when we revisit this movie again, it's going to be totally different. And we could even do a podcast that would be entirely different than what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Because we'll see different stuff.
What a great film.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wanted to say one more thing. Like, this takes place at a hostess club, right? In Japan, there's hosts and hostesses. They can be like sex workers, but oftentimes they're not. Like, the maid cafes got very popular recently, where they just kind of shower you with attention.
Yes.
And it's almost like a girlfriend-boyfriend type relationship. And some of it's predatory, too.
Okay.
Especially men hosts, where they'll target, like, lonely women and stuff.
Okay.
But the women pay for it, and they want it. There's a great documentary called The Great Happiness Space that covers this. You follow a few men hosts through, a few nights with them and stuff.
Okay.
And it's an awesome watch, and it goes places you don't expect. They have this big fake front bravado, but they're the most fragile people ever who just want to be loved themselves, and it's impossible for them to attain it.
What was the documentary called again?
The Great Happiness Space.
Okay.
It's from 2006, I think. I randomly watched it one night, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So, check that out if you can.
Cool.
And check this movie out.
Right.
Would you recommend it?
Of course. Yeah, everybody. There's like for a movie this obscure, there are places you can see it. I mean, it's on 2 different streaming services, and you can get a DVD of it too.
Yeah, in St. Louis at the public library, there is a DVD.
It exists.
I think the Blu-ray is out of print.
Okay.
So it might be hard to find, but I don't know how rare or expensive it is. But there's ways to get it. I mean, you can stream it.
Yep.
Yeah. So that wraps things up. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show anywhere you get your podcasts. Rate it, review it, most of all, share it. It gets more dudes listening to the dudes, and you can go to dudesonmovies.com and find anything you need right there.
Yep, we're on Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram. Look for Dudes on Movies, and our email address is dudesonmovies@gmail.com.
That's right. And Dave, we have a question of the week. What is the question of the week?
What are your favorite experimental movies?
That is a great question, so hit us up and let us know your answers. And stay tuned next week when we continue with Pride Month with 1996's The Watermelon Woman, directed by Cheryl Dunye and starring Cheryl Dunye and Guinevere Turner. So until next week, I'm your dude Scott.
I'm your dude Dave.
And we'll see you next time.